girls out there who are listening to this, you can be anything you want to be. Don't listen to anybody else. If you have a dream, then go for it. Find out other people who are doing something similar. Use them as role models. Get in touch with them. Look for mentors. Ask for people for help. Really be brave. Get out there. Find out what you can learn. Look at the strengths that you admire in those role models and try and replicate that and create a plan for yourself so that your dream becomes a realistic goal, because I do believe that you can have that. You can achieve that. Don't impose your own limitations and your own ceiling. I want you to get out there and do it.
Today I'm here with Claire Preston, who is the head of operations at POW, the Power of Women. Now, this is a company which helps young women find pathways to success in this ever-changing world. Claire, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me, Aslam. Really delighted to be here to talk to you about Power of Women. So, Power of Women was established as a result of an amazing trailblazer and advocate of equality, Professor Jane Turner. And in 2016, Teesside, where I'm from in the northeast of England, there was a report that actually shared that Teesside was the worst place in the UK for teenage girls to grow up. So people like Jane, who were massive advocates of equality and women and social mobility, were not going to accept this. They were going to say, what can we do about this? So there were lots of things that she was already aware of and already doing in her role within education, but she was determined to change the narrative and to change the future and opportunities that were available to young women from our region. So the Power of Women was established a little bit later, in 2021, and I got involved towards the back end of 2022, 18 months later, and we work with schools across the northeast, but primarily Teesside and the Tees Valley, to teach children, young people, about equality, aspiration, and break down gender stereotypes.
Obviously there are some amazing things going on locally, but I think there's a lot more that we can be doing to support enterprise, entrepreneurialism and skills development, which will then have a massive impact on the local economy in the years to come. So education is really my passion, and I think there's a big part to play in developing the skills that are needed for the future.
There's the glass ceiling. You've broken so many of those glass ceilings with what you guys do, and sometimes it can be a glass ceiling of perception. You know, a young lady might think, well, I can't do this. You know, like I told you earlier, I've got a student that wanted to study engineering, but she couldn't find any engineering roles in Qatar in terms of academic pursuits. There were no engineering courses for someone who wanted to do engineering, and she was a female. She then that didn't deter her. She was self-motivated. She went out to Hertfordshire and she did her engineering degree there. It meant studying abroad, away from family, away from friends, away from what I call creature comforts, and away from what was familiar. But she did it. But that's because she was self-motivated. A lot of young ladies don't have that self-motivation. There is that fear of the unknown. There's people around them telling them, oh, you shouldn't really be doing this. Why don't you take an easier path? You know, take the path rather than taking the path less traversed. So I think what you guys are doing with the Power of Women is really, really inspiring. And the reason I wanted to talk to you was I wanted to create awareness of, you know, organizations such as yourself here in Qatar, so that if there is a young woman that wants to take a pursuit and do something that, you know, like start a fitness company, start a coffee shop or whatever she wants to do, and she's unsure, then there's somewhere she can go to for guidance and mentoring.
Absolutely. And it's funny you should say that, Aslam. So one of the sort of the underpinning values that we have, and what makes Power of Women work in its current form, is that you can't be what you can't see. Yeah. So we know, like we said, we need role models. We need people to inspire us. We need to look at others and understand what they do and how we would like to achieve that, and things that make us curious, and actually exposing young people to really positive role models from a range of sectors and careers. So, for example, my dad was a teacher. So guess what I wanted to be? A teacher. But it would never have occurred to me that I could run a business. But by being exposed and engaging with people from a range of sectors, whether that's STEM, whether that's entrepreneurs, whether that's people within health or local authority, whatever it might be, we need to give our children the opportunity to understand the opportunities that are available to them and make them believe that they have access to that personally. So that there are two different parts of that, aren't there? There's the access, but there's also the self-belief that they can be anything they want to be, which is a huge message that we try to impart.
For me, my goal was to be an astronaut. That was always my long-term dream, and that path to figuring out how you actually be an astronaut is pretty challenging. And so I had some pretty good champions in high school that led me into mechanical engineering and then to aerospace. I was always aware that I was a minority in those fields, but I think because I had such a lofty goal, I was always head down studying, and I'm lucky that I haven't had too many negative experiences along my path.
For me, it's not been that bad, actually. The most feedback that I've been getting has been really positive. People have been like, yay, more female pilots. And it could be after a flight that even passengers would stick their head into flight deck and say, like, well done, and that was good.
Yes, yeah. So they're proud.
Exactly, yeah. I think
It's a rarity, and people want to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Getting into that profession, what was that like?
I never saw it as a challenge to be female. I was just like, I want to be a pilot, so how do we make reality out of this? And I went on and did it. I Googled how to be a pilot. I never thought it would be different because I'm female.
Yeah.
It's not after I started flying that I realized that I don't fly with that many female captains, actually.
Right.
It only happened once in 4 years.
I think we have to look at the problem with a wider lens. So there's the first challenge of inspiring young women to go into the field in the first place. So maybe entering an engineering degree, and then you have to consider how many people or women graduate with that degree.
Yeah.
After they graduate, how many women go into that industry? Once they're in industry, how many stay for 5 years, 10 years? How many move up into director level, board level, or management positions?
Yeah.
So there's obstacles at all stages of the pipeline, and how we address those different stages are very different problems, I think.
Such a lack of those role models out there, such as yourself, you know, and so it can be quite hard to dig deep and find that motivation, inspiration, especially if everyone else is telling you around you that, oh, well, you know, you shouldn't be doing this. And so when I do find those role models, I try and create awareness, you know, and so that what you're doing is showcased to all the young women that are out there, so that they can say, well, if she's started her own company, why can't I start my own company?
Do you know, it's funny, Aslam. When I was younger, a couple of people said to me, when I was changing roles and achieving different things, a couple of people said to me, well, if you can do it, I can. And honestly and truly, at the time, I was a little bit offended. I wasn't sure how to feel about that, because I almost felt that they were undermining the effort that I'd put into achieving what I had. But as I've matured, that's completely flipped, because I want all young people to think, if I can, you can. If I can, they can. Everyone can. So that is a really big part of what I do, what Power of Women do. It really is about empowering young people. And like you said, there are so many deep-seated, deep-rooted cultural and societal biases and stereotypes that we need to overcome. But also, one of the big things for me is those self-limiting beliefs. And particularly in certain environments, in certain communities, as you say, there are people who are saying, no, you can't do that, even if somebody does have that dream or that aspiration. So that is really hard, isn't it? So you've got the self-limiting beliefs, you've got the societal pressure, you've got all sorts of challenges going on. So we need to acknowledge all of that and really make sure that our education and the support that we're giving young women and girls really does give them the skills and the confidence they need to know and understand that they can be anything they want to be.
And I think that has to come from women that they can look up to. You know, I mean, it's going to be hard for a young girl to look at Elon Musk and say, "Oh, well, I want to be that successful." It's like there's a bit of a divide there, you know, and there's a bit of a detachment there. Where if it's a young woman who was a young woman who's now succeeded and achieved so much, she can say, "Oh, well, I can," like you say, they can say, "Oh, well, I can do that." You know, and that creates a trail of inspiration. You know, women for women. I really believe that, and so that student of mine that went up to Hertfordshire and went off her own way, she now has launched an online a marketing campaign for personal fitness. So she trains young girls in Qatar with diet plans, and she trains them one-to-one. So it's, women training women. This podcast, when I do get it done, I'll put it out there, and I'll hashtag it, with female empowerment, in the hope that the young women here will see that you do have to dig deep, you do have to find that self-motivation, but there are role models out there.
I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that does worry me, and don't get me wrong, there have been many challenges historically for women. Of course there have.
Yeah.
But I also want to impart the message that don't be a victim. Don't use that as an excuse. Actually, you've got to find it within yourself to get out there and show people what you've got and how much you want it. Yeah, but like you say, we have to create that. We have to give those children the self-belief. We have to give them that confidence and work with them on their leadership skills and all of the things that possibly have been doubted in the past that women and young girls have. And there are prejudices that still exist. Of course there are. But there is so much that we can do as educators and as role models and as a community. I'm a big, massive fan of getting the community involved, and it takes a village to raise a child. So we couldn't do what we do without the role models from within the local business community. Because as we've said, young people, children, boys, girls, all need to see positive role models from a variety of professions and sectors to stimulate their thoughts, their aspiration, and sow those seeds of aspiration and ambition, and teach them things that they would never have dreamed they could do for themselves.
I wanted us to move on now to our set of questions. And my first question was, so you talked about what motivated you. Can you tell me some of your biggest challenges that you faced while promoting gender equality in the UK and around the world, and how did you address them?
That's such a good question, Aslam, because as you can probably imagine, one of the big challenges that I have is people pushing back and saying, well, hang on a minute, power of women? Girls? What about the boys? Boys are often overlooked. Boys have to face lots of challenges as well, and I know you know that.
Yeah.
So our answer is that if we empower women, and we're actually empowering everyone. We're empowering families, we're empowering communities, we're actually influencing change. But we do very much get boys involved with the POW programme. So we teach them about equality. We go into schools and we actually teach the issues around equality. We encourage debates, we encourage conversation, and then we select some ambassadors within those schools. They can apply to become an ambassador of equality and aspiration. And we all select an equal number of boys and girls. And then we do some really specific work with them to teach them about leadership, emotional intelligence, careers, aspiration, all sorts of things. And then they are peer advocates back in their school communities. So we do need to get boys, young men of all ages involved in the conversation, because we acknowledge that equality is equality. We're not just saying that only girls need this. We want to improve equality for everyone. We really, really do. Yes. But obviously there are very specific issues which relate to women, and then we've still got a long way to go. So at the moment, if you look at sort of the figures in terms of heads of state in government, etc., I believe it's about 14% of heads of state and world leaders are women. So that's 14% representing 50% of the population. So clearly equality doesn't exist yet, but we're on that road. But part of the challenge is to bring men along on that journey, men and boys, so that they all understand that by promoting women, we're not then leaving the boys behind. We're just raising everybody up.
Exactly. So how does that work then, Claire? So when you go into a school, what sort of work do you do with the girls in that school?
So, as I say, it's quite interesting. So we go in and we talk to boys and girls, and we talk to them about equality because we want the children to have those conversations. So one of the best things when I first started working with POW was that a teacher then reported that after one of these sessions in the playground, she'd heard boys and girls having this debate about how it wasn't fair that male footballers were paid more than female footballers.
Vastly more as well. Vastly more. It's not a fractional difference.
So especially when the women's England football team had achieved so highly, so there were. But can you imagine the fact that we've triggered those conversations? That's exactly what we want. We want young people to have those conversations, to raise their awareness of equality, and to understand that this is in everybody's favour. This will benefit everyone if we improve equality. So some boys, and obviously within some sectors, globally, there is going to be prejudice, but slowly and surely we have to be getting that message across and empowering boys and girls to talk about equality and making them feel confident and removing some of the sensitivity that's attached to that. So we go into schools, we have those conversations, we recruit ambassadors, and then we take them away for inspiration and development days. So we work on really specific skills to develop skills that students can then go back into school and pass on. So we actually have they can run assemblies and disseminate that information.
How long does that training last then? That when you take them out, is that a full day?
It's regular days across the school year. So we go in and do the initial workshops and sessions. Then there's the recruitment process, which is brilliant in itself because we actually engage people from the local business community to take part in those interviews. So that's a really powerful exercise. And then the successful candidates then go on the development and inspiration days. And as I said, they are then responsible for cascading that information and sharing that message of aspiration and teaching others about the careers and people that they've met. So it's a really powerful model.
I think that's really inspiring, because like an empowerment training camp, almost like or like Duke of Edinburgh, but for female empowerment.
Yeah, that's a really great way of looking at it. Another thing that we do is that, but it's not our core business, is that I work with some secondary students. So I'm doing some work with some Year 9 girls with coaching, similar to the ambassador program, to raise confidence and careers awareness. And I take them out to different places to inspire them and help them to network and engage with local business women and business leaders, but also that coaching element. So that's really powerful. And we also work with Year 7 students in that school. So we work with 5, 6, 7 and Year 9. So a whole range. And ultimately, we would love to be working sort of right the way through from that year, from Key Stage 2, right the way through.
That's so inspiring, because in the absence of people such as yourself, all young girls have to go on is these, I'm sorry, but these influencers on social media who are there giving nonsense spiel. They are not qualified, they're not trained, and having a certain number of followers, which you can, as an influencer myself, I do educational influencing and music. I know you can buy followers, so that means nothing. Yeah, you can't buy qualifications, you can't buy training. Yeah, you can buy followers. So these people that have such a following, they're highly influential to young people who are very vulnerable. Okay, and they give all the advice they give. I've listened to it. It's absolute nonsense. It's to do with dating. It's to do with relationships. None of it is about personal self-development or growth. Yeah, it's because they know that won't get any views, right? So young women have nothing else to go on in terms of, well, who do I look for inspiration? And so when I wrote my book, Boyhood, the girls were like, "Sir, why didn't you write Girlhood?" I said, because I'm not equipped to write that book. Okay, I don't know the nuances of growing up as a young. I know the nuances of growing up as a young boy. They said, "Sir, maybe you can get someone to persuade them to write that." I said, "Yeah, I probably will try to get someone to do that. I can't tell you what it's like becoming a teenage girl." They asked that question because they need that and because they want that. You know, they said, "We wish you wrote Girlhood." I said, well, maybe someone else would be inspired to write it. Maybe you could write that, Claire.
I would love to, but I would say that I'm probably too old because the world's changed.
I know, but you know what? I said the same thing to myself. I grew up in the 90s, but it gives them perspective. Because if you write about what it's like about growing up as a girl now, they know that. But what was it like growing up in the 90s? And so the boys, when they read this, "Oh, so, sir, you're telling me that you didn't have a phone?" I said, "No, I got a phone when I was about 17. So what did you do and how did you? So they want to know, but it's almost like science fiction for them going into the 1990s. Why is Stranger Things so popular with kids? Because they love that world where it was a life less ordinary, but also a life less complicated. And so, yeah, so they would love, because the problems girls face will have changed, but growing up as a girl hasn't changed. Growing up as a boy hasn't changed. You still face those same existential questions and friendships and oh, the girl looked at me, did she like me? All that kind of stuff. That hasn't changed. Okay, the world around us has changed. So I think they would love to read your version of girlhood.
Well, that's really interesting because I totally agree. And one of the things when I push back when people challenge me is that I say to them, yes, but I don't know what it's like to be a 56-year-old white privileged man. I don't know what it's like to be a 14-year-old boy. So you don't make a judgment about what it's like to be a 56-year-old woman or a 13-year-old girl because you don't know. We can't possibly know. But one of the things that I'm doing with the Year 9 girls in Stockton-on-Tees as part of a wider project is that we are creating a journal. So what I'm doing is I'm imparting very specific messages with them around confidence, aspiration, health, sleep, anxiety, grooming, personal safety, all sorts of things. But they are creating this journal, which is then capturing those messages because they know what it feels like to be a year 5, 6, or 7 student. So we're putting that together, this journal, and then hopefully they're going to be able to share that soon with some year 5, 6 students and get some feedback, a little bit like The Apprentice, getting some feedback, seeing whether or not it's right for the audience.
I think that is really inspiring. And that's one success story. I wanted to ask you then about a few more success stories. So can you share some stories about young females who have been inspired by your programs? How did their aspirations change? What were they like when they came in and what were they like at the end of your training programs?
In terms of outcomes and success stories, we'd love to do more research. There's a big, we do want to carry out some really, really intense research for POW. But at the moment, in terms of outcomes, there are lots of things that we hear back from teachers in terms of confidence and the way that children have changed throughout the programme. But in terms of specific things, there have been a few really significant things that I've really, really been impressed with. So, for example, on one Inspiration Day, we got somebody in from an organisation to talk about starting your own business, and they had to practice doing a sales pitch and all this kind of thing. And one person said, "I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to do." They were going to go and work. They wanted to work as a mechanic, for example. But then they said, "Hang on a minute. I still want to work with cars, but I don't want to work for somebody else. I'm going to run my own business." So I know that doesn't sound like a huge leap, but it is, isn't it? It's just to understand that they could possibly do that was just remarkable. So that was really inspiring to hear that. I've had girls who have been engaging with an engineering company and gone along and have no idea what engineering was, but when they come away, actually, wow, I would really love to do this. I had no idea these jobs exist. I'm good at maths, but I didn't know what to do with it. So unfortunately, one of the messages that comes across sometimes is, oh, well, if you're good at maths, be a maths teacher. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a maths teacher. Far from it. We need great teachers. But there are so many other things. There are so many other careers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think those STEM careers. And also, when I took a group of girls to a business networking event with about 100 female role models, honestly, these girls were just so inspired by all these stories with lawyers and entrepreneurs and estate agents and the curiosity that evoked and the ambition that generated was just amazing. So now we're organising work experience in some of these places, and some of the girls are actually saying, no, I want to be XYZ because of that day, because they've seen it. They've seen what success looks like in a way that they've never seen before.
I'm probably gonna get a little stick for this, but I'm gonna say it. Some responsibility lies with it's gonna sound strange, but toy makers and clothing makers, because if If you go to a toy shop, right? Go to the boys' toy shop. You know what you're going to find? Builders' outfits, hammers, tools, okay? Go to the girls' section. You know what you're going to find? Babies, okay? Nappies, little bottles. If it's not that, it's a makeup set, okay? It's a little pram. So how are you going to be embedding ideas of motherhood and dressing up to girls from a very young age and then expect them to try and break free from that, right? Should there not be a female builder's outfit? Should there not be a female engineer's outfit? Where are they? Why are they not in the toy shows? Why are they not inspiring young girls to take on those roles? Okay, why are you creating that gender divide from a very young age and embedding it in their minds? And then you're asking, oh well, if you know, you girls can be anything when they grow up. Yeah, but that indoctrination has started from a very young age.
Absolutely, it's conditioning, and you're right, it's societal and commercial conditioning. So we have to really, really challenge that, and we've got a long way to go. But the best thing that we can do, it really is expose children to role models. And you know, teachers are amazing. I have the utmost respect for the teaching profession. But at the end of the day, they haven't many of them haven't ever done any other jobs, been in any other careers. No. So they are not the best people to then share the potential roles and careers. And at the end of the day, we know that lots of the careers that the children we're working with now, they don't even exist yet, do they? But there is so much information out there. But we need to work in partnership. We need to have the business community involved so that they can share their stories, their career journeys, and really sow those seeds of aspiration and inspire some curiosity within our young people.
I think you should get so many role models involved. You know, there's one of the podcasts I'm going to do. Maybe I'll put you in touch with her. Is one of the former winners of Sportswoman of the Year, and she now trains young people with diets and everything. I think she could come and, even if it's online, speak to your girls and, you know, just give her. And I keep thinking of Deborah Mead. You should try and get in touch with Deborah Mead, one of the Dragon's Den dragons, because she's very inspiring. Because, you know, she's a female entrepreneur, and, you know, I don't know what her availability is, but I just think that your platform should have so many. Should expose your girls to so many role models and put them in touch with them, so that, like you say, when they see them, they say, well, they've done it, they've seen that through. They're not some abstract number or a person. They're an actual, they're someone I've met, you know, and if they did it, then I can probably try and traverse that road as well.
Absolutely. And like you say, authors, lawyers, dentists, whatever it is, we need to give children that exposure, and young people. And when Power was first established, there was a big conversation about which age group to focus on. But one of the directors is an incredible education leader of a multi-academy trust up in the northeast, and she was very, very adamant that we should work with young children, because between the ages of 8 and 10, they really are starting to get that self-awareness, that aspiration is starting to develop, the self-doubt kicks in. So they really do, we need to jump on that before they go to secondary school and start raising their awareness and really feeding their little sponge-like brains with some really positive role models and messages of aspiration and what they can be, because so many children feel that their future is defined by what's on their doorstep, and it is so not the case. Some of the Year 9 girls that I work with, they want to be cabin crew, and that's great, isn't it? That's a lovely ambition. But what I want to show them is there are so many other jobs that they could do where they could still travel. They could actually be on a plane regularly if they want to be, either for business or for pleasure. But being a cabin crew isn't the only way that they're going to fly and see the world. So, but for them, that's the only idea that they have of how that would be possible. So we've got, like I say, we've got to keep pushing. We've got to get them in front of other role models, give them the opportunity to network and engage with people who can share their career journeys.
I know some cabin crew staff actually, and they've told me about the highs and lows of that life. You know, so maybe you could talk to them about well, what's it like? What's the reality of that? It's great to have an aspirational dream, right? But if that's not the best thing, then sometimes exposure to, well, what's that life like really, can really be an eye opener. You know, because some of the things I've heard, and you can tell your girls, is that regardless of the airline, this is the nature of the job. You'll get a call, we need you on this flight. And then you think, oh yeah, you fly to an exotic location. You're there for about, sometimes it's an overnight stay, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you're there for an hour and a half and you get your rest time. But if you're on call for a flight, they also don't want you leaving your accommodation for a number of hours so that you're very perfectly well rested. Because, and that's true, I understand. If I was an airline owner, I would ask my cabin crew to do the same thing, because you don't want them tired. It's fine for everyone to be tired on a plane except for the cabin crew. Okay, if they're tired, what's going to be going on, right? So your rest times are very unnatural and a little bit different, and that's just the nature of the job, So it might seem exotic, but it's a very demanding job.
Absolutely. No, I'm trying to arrange a whole sort of variety of assemblies, either in person or online, so that even if we can't get large numbers of young people out to meet role models, then they're still having the opportunity to hear stories.
So I'll move you on now to collaboration and partnership. So how important is collaboration with schools, businesses, and other organizations in achieving your mission?
Absolutely essential, critical. We just wouldn't have the impact that we do if we did it ourselves. I mean, we work in partnership with some fantastic organisations. We work in partnership with amazing schools who really do want to raise aspiration and ambition. But as we've said, people within the education sector aren't necessarily the best place to teach about careers. So we really do need those role models, those volunteers to come in and to help with interviewing, to share their stories, to inspire, talk about the different sort of their career journeys and the different qualifications, the different choices that they made, how their roles might have changed over the years. Because obviously we used to be in an environment where people were in a job for life, but that has changed immensely, hasn't it? Dramatically. So lots of people will have several careers. They need to hear that. They need to know that just because they do one job initially, it doesn't mean that that's what they'll do for the rest of their lives.
Around what time are your assemblies with your girls?
Really, really varies. So we can do some in the morning, some in the afternoons, and I'd love you to stream in if possible, and talk to as many students as possible, boys and girls.
Absolutely, and I will put you in touch with another CEO. So she runs ILM Education. It's the course through which I'm doing my NPQSL training, but she's really inspiring because her name's Ira Myford. So she then started her own educational company. Okay, and she now goes into schools, training schools here, and she's the entire owner of that company, and she trains schools, trains teachers, and I think your girls hearing from her will really inspire them, because she also connects teachers across different schools in Qatar as well. So she says it's not fair that teachers in Qatar don't connect. They're all living in a bubble. So she connects them too. So she's got ILM Education, but also ILM Connect. And I think her availability is the same as mine. And I think if I put you two in touch, she would love to talk to your girls and inspire them.
Yes, please, 100%. Anybody that is willing to give some time, we really welcome it. The more people that we can showcase, the more careers that we can give our young people insight into, the better. So I really welcome any contacts whatsoever.
I want to move you on to measuring success. So when it comes to something like, personally, from what I've heard from you, I think one of the true measures of your programs is when someone says something which is like a revelation to themselves. I want to start my own business now. Because what you've done there is, which is quite hard. As teachers, we can spend years trying to do this, which is a perception change, an outlook change. And so, but what metrics or indicators do you use to measure the success of your programs and initiatives on gender equality?
Well, it's a tough one, really, because we won't see the real outcome. We won't see the real outcomes of our work for quite a long time. So what we can do is gather feedback. What we do is we take some, we carry out some questionnaires at the start of the program and at the end of the program, in terms of self-perception, and as well as how the teachers feel about those children in terms of their confidence etc. So we do actually see how the children grow in a range of areas, including leadership, emotional intelligence, careers awareness, confidence. And it's amazing to hear how many more children are actually putting their hand up, how many girls are speaking, how many children are actually willing to start to lead a group or to take ownership of things, understanding about responsibility and showing empathy and inspiring others. So all of that is really, really powerful, and that is measured to some extent. But as I said, we'd love to do more in terms of research. And also what we're trying to do, and going back to your question about partnerships and collaboration, there's another fantastic, well, there are lots of fantastic organisations in the Tees Valley, but there's one in particular called High Tide, and they work with older students to arrange a work experience and training and to inspire them. So we're hoping to have some sort of transition from primary, secondary, and go through with that, and then really see the benefit of that continued, sustained input, so that we will then be able to measure those employment outcomes, those aspirational goals, and really look at the bigger picture in terms of the impact that we're making.
So what then are your future goals then, Claire? What are your future goals for, Power of Women? How do you see the landscape of gender equality changing in the next 5 or 10 years?
Okay, so 2 parts to that question. So the landscape is changing. Unfortunately, if we keep going at the same rate, it's going to take us about 100 years to achieve true gender equality. But we need to ramp that up.
Do you remember, Claire, when it came out? I was in Qatar, and I told my students, and one of them was so moved by it. She said, "I'm gonna do more research." She's done a speech on this about the gender pay gap in the BBC. Do you remember that? And it all came out that it existed, and it was shocking because it defies logic. And work's been done on that since then. But like you say, at the pace at which we're going, we're going to need another 100 years. So
Absolutely. But the good news is more women are going into leadership roles. More women are involved in boards and in large organisations and having an influence on policy and legislation, which really will help us to push equality faster. So we will get there sooner. And we do need to have that diversity of opinion and perspective to really make sure that there is equity across the board. So that there is progress. I think the landscape is changing, and we're seeing that in terms of workplace policy, educational, all sorts of different things. But in terms of our future goals, we want to grow. We want to reach as many children as possible, because when we work with children, what's really wonderful is they say every child needs POW. Every child should go through this, but we don't have the funding, we don't have the capacity, but we can reach other people with our message and give them the model and the tools to actually run with this and share some ideas. So there are lots of things that we could help to embed in schools elsewhere, but unfortunately we just don't have the manpower to really scale at the moment. But we would like to work with younger children, we'd like to work with older children, and like I say, have that continuity. So we really do feel that we're supporting children from a young age right through. And the other thing that I haven't mentioned is that I'm working with some mums within a local school community as a pilot, to really build their confidence, and to raise awareness of equality and to try and raise their aspirations. And what's amazing about that is that they are now understanding that they do have a massive impact on the local community. There are those ripple effects that I can now start to see in terms of their own aspiration, and them recognising that they are mentors for the local community and that they have voices that should be used and should be heard, and then they will become role models for other women and young people within their communities. So we need to do a lot more of all of that. But ultimately the goals are reaching as many people as possible with our message, to inspire them, to really raise those aspirations and hoping to give them the access to the opportunities that exist, and to get more and more businesses involved so that they feel some responsibility for developing the future workforce and inspiring the next generation, because we can't do it alone, and the schools aren't completely responsible for that either. We need to all work together to really make that happen. So that's the goal: greater collaboration, extended reach, more empowerment, more equality and aspiration and brighter futures.
Just to touch upon what you said, I think is so inspiring that you're getting moms together, and becoming a mom can be quite overwhelming, because you've got this baby to look after, and you got to put yourself aside, and that's a full-time job, and it can be depending on the mom, they can sometimes not have anyone to communicate with, and it's hard for a mom of today to communicate with her mom, because her mom was a mother so many years ago. She doesn't remember everything, and things have changed as well. So when you're connecting moms that have become moms now, that can be really empowering for them, because they've got an outlet. I watched that film the other day where these four women that are very, very different, but they're all unique, and they're all united in the sense that their children go to the same school and are all facing difficulties, and they find a lot of common ground on that, and they create this this moms babysitters club where there's four of them, so one of them will look after the children, the three of them will enjoy a night out, and they'll do that on a rotational basis, and so it's just a movie, but it did give me this idea that bringing moms together, moms of today, is really fantastic, because no one else will know that struggle, apart from someone who's become a mom right now, today, So I think it's great that you bringing them together is absolutely empowering them.
Yeah, we're really, really pleased with the way that that's going. And as I say, unfortunately, resources are limited. So we're constantly fundraising, we're looking for grants, we're looking for business support, but we know the value of what we do, and we do need to just continue small steps, empowering as many people as we go, and then helping other people to lift others as we go. Really just women empowering women, as you say, and supporting each other and sharing their lived experiences is really, really powerful.
And I think the ambassador program that you do, I think if you can, you could try and get female CEOs to also become your ambassadors. You might not be able to pull them out from the world and do a face-to-face training with them, but maybe you could do it online about the values and so on, and they could become your company ambassadors, like the faces. Like these are our ambassadors who are all CEOs all across the world. And if someone comes onto your website and they see that would be so uplifting. Like, oh wow, well they've got that person on board. Like.
You're absolutely right, Aslam. And we do have on our website, we do have lots of female role models, so students can go on there and have a look at different women in different roles across our region. But you're right, we need to do more with women in leadership around the world.
Yeah.
That it's really inspirational.
I would be on the tail of J.K. Rowling. I'd get her involved. That's what she's talking about. J.K. Rowling, Deborah Mead, all these women in positions of power and influence they should all be. I think if you explain the agenda to them, they won't be averse to them. Like, oh no, that's nothing to do with me. No, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm all for that.
No, it's true. I mean, they are busy people, but they are prepared to get behind things like this because they've lived it, haven't they?
J.K. Rowling got turned away from so many publishers because her book was about magic and children and wizardry, so she's faced that struggle, and so have all these other women who've reached these positions. There's not a single one of them that didn't get there without so much negativity and struggle and hardship, and digging the heels in and having that self-conviction. That's what got them through it. So I'm sure they would love to have a role model, and I'm sure they would love to play a role model for the females of today who need that.
Absolutely. And what's great as well, when we have had students in an environment with female role models or business leaders of any gender, they have been really prepared to ask for things. Will you come and do this? Because we're giving the children the confidence. It is amazing, and they are prepared to ask for that. So I think we'll get some children to write some letters and some pleas to some of these inspirational people and see if we can get them involved.
Well, my last thing to ask you is a call to action. What can listeners do to support gender equality initiatives in their own communities, and how can they get involved with POW?
Okay, so I'm assuming that the podcast will be listened to by a wide range of people. So the message could differ depending on the age or location of people, but having a conversation and raising awareness about equality is everybody's responsibility. everybody's responsibility. If we see something that's wrong, we should be calling it out. If we hear a gender stereotype being discussed, we should be calling it out and encouraging that conversation, challenging it, questioning it, because a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. So those who do know better should be sharing their experience and really making sure that they're spreading that knowledge. But I think it's about advocacy. Male advocacy is really, really important. We need men to champion women. We need boys to champion girls and support girls. And I know that works both ways, but we do need to strive towards equality, and we will only achieve that if we are all working together on that. So we do need male advocates who will champion women in the workplace, help to elevate them, open doors for them in terms of opportunities, and really make sure that we are giving extra attention to those people who are lacking in confidence, who might be sort of hiding their light under a bushel, and really just need that extra push that sometimes, I have to say, a lot of men don't need, whereas a lot of women won't necessarily put themselves forward for those things. So I do think that men can help with that, as well as women supporting women. In terms of getting involved with POW, there are lots of ways that you can get involved with POW. As you've described, we need role models, either online or face-to-face. We will welcome anyone that wants to stream in and give us a story about their life, their career journey, wherever they are in the world. That's so inspirational, really empowering. But we also welcome financial support, sponsorship. If somebody wants to sponsor a particular day, an inspirational day, or a STEM day, or an outing to Cambridge University, or whatever it might be, so that more children really do get to have their horizons widened and their eyes opened to the world out there beyond their communities. We really do need as much help as possible in a voluntary, financial, or role model form.
Well, I strongly believe that you're only going to go from strength to strength, because it's such an empowering and important initiative, and it's ongoing. It's not something that's going to be done in the next 10 years. It's ongoing. You can't just do female empowerment and that's it. It's ongoing, and I think you will go from strength to strength. Like I say, I would highly recommend you to aim high. Contact everyone. Try and get so many people involved as ambassadors, as because for them it'll be good as well. Let's say you had Jennifer Lopez as one of your sponsors, then it'll be great for her, because she also improves her self-image as well as helping young girls of today out at the same time. So I think that those who are not involved probably just don't know about it. That's what this podcast is about. I'm not saying it's going to be listened to by everyone, but those who do, like you said, create awareness and create dialogues. I think that's a huge step, and I really hope that more and more young women are inspired by yourselves, and more role models and ambassadors and sponsors and businesses get involved, because it's such a worthy cause.
Thank you. Can I say one more thing, Aslam? I've just thought, in terms of a call to action, one more thing. Girls out there who are listening to this, you can be anything you want to be. Don't listen to anybody else. If you have a dream, then go for it. Find out other people who are doing something similar. Use them as role models. Get in touch with them. Look for mentors. Ask for people for help. Really be brave. Get out there. Find out what you can learn. Look at the strengths that you admire in those role models and try and replicate that, and create a plan for yourself so that your dream becomes a realistic goal, because I do believe that you can have that. You can achieve that. Don't impose your own limitations and your own ceiling. I want you to get out there and do it.
I think I'm going to start my video off with that statement. Yeah, because that's so empowering and inspiring, and so thought-provoking. And I think they do, young girls of today do need to hear that. They need to hear those things from successful CEOs and businesswomen such as yourself. So yeah, I think that's really, really empowering, bold, opening statement.
Thank you. I mean, it's just, I'm so passionate about it, Aslam, because I never believed that I could run a business or I could be a leader. And then I was the first Tees Businesswoman of the Year. And so because of that, I really feel really passionate about giving back. And I really feel that it is my duty to lift and empower others. And I'm determined to continue doing that in any role that I'm in. But if there's anything that I can do to help you and the girls that you work with, then please let me know.